I think we may have to do I'll set some exercises and practice materials on this topic to get a better understanding of tax and its relation. And in I think it's in week 2 that we talked about price ceilings and price floors, which I didn't cover in test 1, but will be in test 2. These are also some topics that you can use to analyze government price controls. So take a look at these as well, please, or email me if you want to have more information about price ceilings and price floors that government usually imposes. So background to demand. We now talk about some determinants of demand that we didn't talk about so far. We talked about third factors that determine the demand. It makes the demand shift. But now, what drives the people to demand more? What motivates or what influences the people's choice of purchasing extra unit of goods? It's a theory of marginal utility, or utility theory. So let's look at a quick introduction. So we look at consumer demand, and we discuss how concept of utility and how it relates to consumer behavior, or how it's related to spending behavior. In other words, that's consumer behavior. And we also look at, in the next lecture, at indifference curves. I think you have heard about it, some of you, yeah? Indifference curves. And also budget line. We introduced the budget line, and we talk about optimal consumption. These 2 topics will certainly be in your final exam. Final exam is quite numerical, so I'll do practice for that obviously before we come to that. But please take these as serious topics, as important topics. Now, let's assume as economists again, you see there's a lot of assumptions that we're making. As economists, without assumptions we cannot get away. Theory is full of assumptions basically, although they hold or not hold is another story. So we assume that as consumer we want to get value for money. So we want to get the highest satisfaction for whatever we spend. So that's another way of saying value for money, getting value for money. I think somebody told me in the first lecture that economists deal with the value for money. Yes, they do. And that's when it comes to scarcity and utility theories. And so assume that every customer or consumer in the economy or agent in the economy wants a value for money or highest satisfaction for the cash they spend. Now let's also set the stage for further discussion. So all units of the goods that we buy, whatever the goods they are identical usually. If you're consuming a box of crisps, every pack is the same, identical, apart from being different flavors. So let's say the same flavor of a box of crisps. So we consume multiple of this, the same identical good. So each pack is the same. But the utility, the satisfaction from consuming this good we get is not the same. Or is it? Smiling? No? Why smiling? Have you studied this before? It's an interesting topic. Or do you feel different? I mean, you have the same satisfaction from each crisps you consume?
I don't eat a lot of crisps, but after one, I think that's enough for everyone.
Yeah. No, it may not be enough, but you get less satisfaction, right? So your satisfaction basically kind of will not be the same as the one that you got when you consume the very first unit. So it really depends on how many you consumed before. If you're running and you want to drink water, the first gulp is usually the best gulp, yeah? And then you just feel like you don't want more. So next gulp, basically it just diminishes. The satisfaction you get diminishes. So that's one thing that the economists take from reality.
This is in like a short span of time.
Yeah, we can think of, for the time being, let's ignore the time dimension. You can think of short span of time, yeah. But let's ignore it for now. Just now, you're consuming something. The first unit will be very delicious. The next unit is just, you're filling up. You just say, okay, I don't want to consume the next one. Even if you do, you just feel like you don't get that satisfaction you got in the first case, yeah? Okay, now, do you feel like that you are actually valuing the goods that you're consuming when you are thinking about your satisfaction? Shh, guys.
Sorry.
Do you feel in this instance that you are valuing the next unit of the product that you're placing a value, aren't you? The first one is very valuable to you. You just want to drink it when you're running, yeah? The water. First gulp is very valuable. But the next gulp, like, it's not that much, is it? It's not as much as it used to be before. Or the crisps. The first pack, you eat it. It's nice. Next pack is not that nice. It doesn't give you that satisfaction. So you are actually putting much value, much higher value on the first pack. In the second pack, there's not much value for you. So then people back in days back in days when people they were very poor, there's shortage. It's the time of Adam Smith in 1760s. He said, how do people value how do we value the market value of the good? How do we determine the market value of the good? And they didn't know. And even Adam Smith at the time looked at water and looked at diamonds. He said, water is so plentiful. It's so valuable. It's so valuable that as we drink, its value diminishes, however. But then he says, okay, diamonds, look at them. They are so valuable, but they don't have much utility for us, do they? I mean, we don't get much satisfaction as much as we get from drinking water, do we?
From diamond?
From diamond.
Somebody gave me a diamond, a bottle of water.
No, let's say I leave you in this room for a day without water, and I'll give you diamond water. And you want to stay one extra week without water in this room. Which one do you take, water or diamond?
Depends on the size of the diamond.
Okay, but yes, he was puzzled. Why are we paying so much for diamonds but so little for water, even if the utility we get from it is so high? That time having a fresh water was scarce, wasn't it? It wasn't like flowing from the tap. You have to make sure that, you have to go and refine the water yourself to drink it at the time. Or have it from the well, which takes a long time to travel. But it was plentiful still. More than diamonds were available, right? So he was puzzled. And he didn't know why people were paying so much for diamonds when water has given the people more satisfaction, more benefit. It came a bit later when the 19th century economists, that's 1800s now, I don't remember their names, they started thinking of utils that we get from consuming. And the biggest breakthrough, however, came later towards the end of the 19th century, 1970s, and we talked about marginal utility. The marginal utility. Rather than the total utility, they said we should look at how we value the additional unit of the good. That's going to be the value of the good for us. That's how we value the market. We determine the market price of the good. So it's the additional, extra unit or marginal unit. Yeah. So that's why we call this time a marginal revolution. The concept of marginal utility, marginal or additional, whatever the concept you're using, we'll focus more on the additional aspects of it rather than looking at the total aspects of it. And it also gave the birth to the neoclassical economics. There used to be classical economics, time of Adam Smith, but then we started talking about neoclassical, new classical economics. Okay, so let's define these concepts. The satisfaction that we get from consuming a product is utility, and total utility is defined as the total satisfaction we receive from consuming that product. Then we have the marginal utility. That refers to the satisfaction we get from consuming an additional unit of that product. Marginal means additional, right? Clear? So marginal utility is the additional utility we get from consuming an extra unit, while total utility is just all the additional utilities we consume. So we receive from consuming certain amounts. I'll give you an example of that a little later. And mathematically, the marginal utility is change in total utility. Change in the units we consume up to now divided by change in the number of units themselves. So the change in the total utility that we get from consuming certain units divided by the units themselves. Let's take a look at how we measure it, basically. We always draw everything in the curves so that we understand it better. Let's look at Ollie's utility from consuming crisps. So this is Ollie, basically. I don't know why this PowerPoint thing comes and covers it up all the time, but we're looking at Ollie, a guy. So we have utility that Ollie gets from consuming crisps on the left vertical axis, and the number of or units of units of crisps that he consumes is on the horizontal axis. And when he doesn't consume any, so look at the box, doesn't consume any crisps, he gets nothing, no utility, no satisfaction. By the way, utility is measured in utils, a unit of measure for utility, satisfaction. We will eventually digress from this topic and focus more on money terms. We measure the utility in money terms. Dama?
And like quantity demanded?
Util? No, it's on its own is a unit of measure. Util. Util, satisfaction. One util is just one satisfaction, and this is why we are puzzled. Utilitarians back in 19th century came up with the name, but they didn't know how really to measure it in practice. So later, the later economists said, why don't we measure all the satisfaction in pounds or dollars? Yeah, this makes sense to us. But if we carried on with utils, I think maybe utils would have made sense now as well. But we discarded it. We thought, let's measure it in dollars at the time. Well, obviously at the time it was more like shillings probably here in the UK, or dollars, pences. So whatever it is, util is just a unit of satisfaction. Yeah? There is no measure of that in practice. You drink the water, you get some certain amount of satisfaction, right? That's a util. You can place 10 util on that. Let's say 10 utils on that first gulp of water. In the second, you might place 5 utils. So the value is declining, isn't it? But util in practice doesn't have a meaning, doesn't make sense. So we could measure that first satisfaction in dollars. Later we'll introduce it. Okay, right? So let's leave it for now.
So utils we don't use?
No. I mean, for introduction we use,
Right.
but we change to dollars and pounds in the next few slides time. Okay, let's look at packets of crisps. 0 packets of crisps, nothing, no utility. The first packet of crisp gives only 7 utils. So you can think of that 7 as satisfaction, units of satisfaction. Second, consuming the next set gives him total utility of 11. So basically, he's added 4 extra units of utility, right? That made it total 11. As you can see, as Ollie consumes more, total utility is increasing, but at a decreasing rate. So if you draw it, it looks more like this. Yeah? So the first unit, you see from 0 to number 1, the red dot jumps high. It's like our first gulp of water when you're running, yeah, after you run. Just big satisfaction. But the next gulp gives you that small rise in the util, in satisfaction. As you drink more and more, or as he eats more and more, utility tapers off. The increase just disappears, fades out, and even declines. So you don't want it anymore. Yeah, after eating the 4th, he just is full. The 5th will actually give him dissatisfaction. So that last point, 6th, is even worse. So he doesn't go beyond it. So it is clear how utility is measured in theoretical terms. Utility rises at a declining rate. Dissatisfaction also increases at an increasing rate now. Notice that the tail that starts declining is wider now, because it just starts being more steeper. Anyway, it is clear, guys, the utility that we get, the whole concept. So we're merging kind of consumer behavior with economics now to work out a value for this product, whatever that he consumes. Now, the concept of marginal utility, the additional utility. We have the last column in red. We added that now. Notice that From when he consumes 0, there's nothing, no additional utility. But when he consumes the first unit, he gets 7 additional utility or marginal utility, utils. When he consumes the second unit, his additional util is 4, which makes the total 11, 7 plus 4. And when he consumes the third, the additional utility is even less, so that's 2. And when you add 7, 4, 2, sum them up, you get 13 as total utility. You see, the total utility is increasing, but at a declining rate. The additional utility he's getting, utils he's getting basically, are declining over time, well, as he consumes more. Is the concept of marginal utility clear? Yeah, the curve, red curve here, the additional curve, is a marginal utility. After consuming the 5th unit, the additional units give him dissatisfaction, a negative utility, so -1, negative utils. These are dissatisfaction. So we are measuring our unmeasurable satisfaction in kind of in more practical terms, but it still doesn't work for us. We'll have to come back to it later and measure it in monetary terms. So the marginal utility is then 2 here. Mu equals change in total utility, which is the rise, delta Tu, over change in the quantity of crisps that he consumed. So that gives us 2 over 1. 2 is the marginal utility. Is the concept clear, guys? Think about your own, think through this in the context of your life. It must be clear now by now, yeah? Badruddin, do you have any question? No. Do you understand that? I'm sorry? Yeah. Kind of? Give an example where you get your own example where you could be, your marginal utility, your total utility is declining. Go on. Do you play PlayStation games? Do you play PlayStation? Yes. Or these video games? Football. I see you play it all day. You're coming from the uni, you go to the room, you at home, you go into your room, you start playing football. You play an hour, second hour, third, fourth. Do you get the same satisfaction after 4 hours as you got in the first hour of playing? In the first, you're craving for it, yeah? You just run for it, you just do it. You place more value on the first hour of your play. But as you play more, the additional hours of playing this football will not, additional time spent on the football will not be as much valuable as the first hour, isn't it? So you can think of this only as well, doing the same thing. Yeah, he's placing larger value on the first unit, and then his willingness to pay for the extra units is declining because he's getting less satisfaction. You see, we are now trying to bring this util thing into economics. And we're measuring it in pounds now, yeah? His playing of football video game, for example. His first hour after this class is best hour. And then as he plays more, he gets bored. Because he doesn't get much satisfaction now. Yeah, that's all that. Clear? Everyone else? Right. That's how we place value on goods, basically. I mean, we talked about all the determinants. Okay. Now we come and let's see if we can see where we can stop. Where do we stop in consumers? When do we have to consume? When do we have to stop consuming? How do we know that we have to stop, in other words, yeah, of consuming this? What maximizes our consumption or satisfaction? At what point? What's the optimum? So if you look back at this guy, what's the optimum here? He gets maximum utility. What quantity he should consume so that he gets the maximum satisfaction? Between 4 and 5, right? Maybe 4.5 packets. Let's say 4. 5 is just declining a bit. Let me have a look at this. Yeah, 5 apparently. You see, marginal utility. He doesn't get additional benefit from consuming anything beyond 5 units. Yeah, he gets dissatisfaction. Look at the last column. 0 is when he consumes 5 units. So he needs to consume 5 packets maximum to maximize his satisfaction from this consuming of this good. But in reality, it will be very hard to determine when you're purchasing the good at the time. How do you know what maximizes your utility? What quantities maximize your utility? You might think, maybe my experience, I used to eat 5 packets of it. I used to consume 5 packets of crisps before. But then don't expect that your satisfaction will be the same this time around, because a lot of other factors will be around, yeah, affecting your demand for this good. So that measurement of utility in utils doesn't help us to determine when we will maximize our satisfaction or when we have to stop. So we have to come up with some measure of utility that is practical, and we have to measure it then. Yeah? One solution is to measure it in money terms. We have to measure how much the extra unit that we are consuming is worth. So we have to figure out what it is worth. How much are you willing to pay for this?
10p.
10p. 10p. So that's how much it is worth for you, right? That's how much utility you get from it. 10p worth of utility. But in the market, it could be 5p. So you have 5p of custom satisfaction surplus. Sorry, I'll come to that in a minute. So you see that utility, we just quickly give it a value, given how much its satisfaction it gives to us, how much benefit it gives to us. Yeah, we are valuing the same goods now.
So it's like, it's how much more than the market value that you're willing to pay?
Yeah, that's going to be marginal utility that you have. But we'll come to that in a minute. One second. But you both said 10p, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's do an exercise before we go on further. So do the first one, please. Read the first one. So it must be 10p then. Kevin, what's the name of the person next to you? Is next to you? Who? Tyler, sorry. I didn't want to say it because. So let us know what the answer is to question 1. The easiest thing you can do. Tyler? Because you are very busy at looking at the screen, and I guess that was the slide that you're looking at. Yes, so what's the answer to question B? Kevin? Okay. Do you have the answer, guys? It's easy, isn't it? It's 1, 2 students, 3. Oh, one others.
For the first one or the second one?
Oh, first question. You have answer? Yeah. 4 students. Anyone else? Are you paying attention, guys? Kevin, do you want to answer it?
Sorry, the first one.
The first one, yeah.
Marginal utilities.
3? It is 3, right? It's the same example that we've just seen. For those who aren't paying attention, just to draw you, just to give you a, proper answer rather than stopping here. It's probably confusing if you're currently looking at it. So he's consuming some toffees, and he consumed 20 toffees. So let's put units. And his I didn't put it in the right way, so he consumed 4 and 5th unit. So he's been consuming, let's say. And he gets utils from consuming these toffees. And the 4th unit, total utility was 20, and the next one was 23. Then create the marginal utility column. So additional utility he gets from consuming the 5th unit is then 23 minus 3, 20, so that's 3, right? So marginal utility from consuming this toffee when he consumes the fifth unit is 3, right? The difference. This is for those who haven't been looking at the screen for the past 5 minutes. Okay, question number 2 now. Now we look. Marginal utility is now in pounds. We're measuring it in pounds. So let's answer this question now. Alan, please try to answer the first one and somebody will answer the second one. Or maybe you answer the second one and somebody will answer the first one. There are 2 questions there. Fabio, do you want to answer? You want to? Yeah, take a look then.
So that number represents how much more than 10 pounds they value?
No, it's just the marginal utility. You can think of that as well.
So like how do they come up with that in pounds?
You see, you told me that 10p, it's worth with 10p, that's what they did as well.
So this is kind of like a theoretical thing?
You value
But that first unit is worth 25 pounds?
Yeah, the first unit was worth for this person 25. Like the first 10 is 10p for you. If I give you the second, you probably tell me 8p. Because you already have one.
Right.
So the next one is just additional for you, right? So just try to answer this, guys. This gives really good understanding of this topic if you can understand it. If you can do this on your own. If not, let us know.
It would be 73. Yeah.
So what's Jim's total utility from consuming 4 units? Tyler? Yeah, what's Jim's total utility from consuming 4 units?
Is it 13?
13. How did you get this?
I just subtracted the starting utility with the number before 4. So you're using, you're consuming 4 units. So I just subtracted 25 and 12.
Okay. Right. So who else wants to answer this question? Not these guys. Let's see from others. So the first question, what is Jim's total utility from consuming 4 units? Right at the back, anyone?
It's just the sum of the marginal utility.
No, let's see how well we understood. So Kevin, do you want to answer? Then we'll ask the next person there. Sitting. 73. How did you arrive at that figure?
Am I supposed to like take the reverse marginal utility and then for every quantity consumed after that, do I take the original quantity and add on?
Exactly, yeah. To get the total utility, you add sum the marginal utilities. Yeah, just like here, in the first slide when we looked at the graph, we added all the marginal utilities that right at the total utility for certain quantities, right? So this is exactly the same thing here. So the total utility from consuming 4 units is the sum of all the marginal utility of consuming additional units. So the first unit gives this person 25 pound worth of utility. So you're measuring it in pounds. That's easy to understand. And since he's got the first one already, what's this actually? Just a good pound. So he's got the first one already. So he's got one. The second additional unit, he's going to evaluate at 20 pounds. The third unit, because he's got already 2 at home stored, that's going to be less and less in value, right? So these are additional utilities, values he places on consuming each additional unit. So when you add them up, when you consume the 4 units, that will give you the sum of them gives us the total utility he gets from consuming 4 units. Clear, guys? So the total utility of 4 units, consuming 4 units of this good is 73. Sum of all this up to here. Now, what is the total expenditure? 40?
Yeah.
That's because he's paying 10 pounds per unit. So when he buys 4 units, he pays £40 expenditure. So he gets £73 worth of satisfaction from £40 worth of market value of good, yeah? So he's getting value for money. It is clear. So the first unit for him is worth £25. He's actually willing to pay £25 even if there is, this good is for £25. I mean, even when the market price is £10, he's willing to pay £25 for the first unit. He just craves for it. He puts much value on it. You know, when you go to market, when you go to, have you been to shopping? When there's January sale, Christmas sale, you come with, you have a budget. You say, I'll spend up to £200 today on this good. I'll just go there, whatever the discount is. I know the price is £300, but I'm really happy. I'm willing to spend $200 for it. Yeah? After discount. You go there, that additional unit is actually 200 worth for you, pound worth for you, dollar worth for you. But in the market, it could be still 150. Yeah? You're getting value for money. So it's the same here. He's willing to pay £25 for the first unit when it's £10. So he's got additional benefit of 15. Yeah? This is surplus. Marginal utility minus the price is usually we call a surplus. The next unit is valued at 20. He personally values at 20, but he pays 10. The additional unit, the third unit, for him is £16 worth, but he's paying £10 because of the market value. The fourth unit, you see the utility, marginal utility is declining. So additional units are being valued at a less level. The rate of value you're offering is declining. But after the fourth unit, the fifth unit is much less valuable to him than he's gonna pay. So he stops there. He consumes just 4 units, maximizes his utility at 4 units apparently, right? Remember we talked about how we stop and when we stop. Whenever we put value on the goods that we purchase, satisfactions that we acquire from purchasing, right? Consuming. So he must stop at 4 units. Because the additional unit he's paying actually over much more, £10 for the £8 worth of utility he gets from additional unit. Is this clear? Yes.
So marginal utility is better than basically the amount of utility that you get from one extra car.
Exactly.
So if the marginal utility from the first to the second unit is 25 to 20, does that mean you're getting 20 more on top of the original 25 because it's
Yes.
so your total utility for 2 quantities would be
45. You add them up.
it wouldn't be 25 plus the 25 plus the 20 because the original was
No, the first unit you got 20. From the first unit you have £25 worth of utility. From consuming the second unit, you got £20 worth of utility satisfaction. The sum of the two gives you total utility.
Is that only in like monetary terms? So like say I had 1 bag of chips, right, and it was 25 utils or something like that. And the second bag of chips had a marginal utility of 20. But since my first bag of chips was already at 25, I would have added 20 to that 25.
To get the total, yeah. Yeah. To get the total, you add the marginal utilities from getting, from consuming the extra units, additional units. Are you guys? Okay. Strange. Now, concept of consumer surplus. Remember, we talked about surplus. Marginal utility in the first few units was much higher than the price we pay, right? In other words, the value we place on consuming the first few units is higher than the price. Then that triggers or makes us to learn about what consumer surplus is. Right, consumer surplus is the difference between what we've put as a value on a good and what we pay for it. So it's the difference between marginal utility and the price, apparently. Yeah? The value we place on a good is what we get from that consuming that product, and the price is what we pay for it in actual reality, right? So the difference is then consumer surplus. So I think I've just talked about the last two bullet points. Do you have any question on this? I'll go to the next slide if you do not. So consumer surplus is the difference between value we personally place on a good and then the price we pay. So the first one is measured in satisfaction terms, second one is measured in pounds. But usually that satisfaction is also measured in pounds when we do calculations. Now we will determine where we stop maximizing, where we stop consuming the good. At what point we stop consuming the good. Right. Now, how much of a good will we buy? Now, we keep buying the good as long as it gives us more satisfaction each time, relative to what we pay for it. So, if we consume 3 units, and if we want to consume the 4th unit, and the marginal utility from consuming the 4th unit is higher than the price we pay for the 4th unit, then we keep buying that good. However, if marginal utility of consuming that 4th unit is less than the price we pay, then we won't buy, we stop. So we stop at the point when marginal utility is equal to the price, apparently, given this assumption. It is clear, guys. So we go back. I'll just give you that example back again. Notice that we said the first unit gives that person £25 worth of satisfaction, which is clearly higher than what he pays to acquire that first unit. We pay the second. He eats the second unit or consumes the second unit. He's going to get £20 worth of utility, because the marginal utility he gets from that second unit is still higher than the price he pays. He consumes the next unit, and then he consumes the 4th unit, where he gets £12 worth of utility. And when he wants to buy the 5th unit, he just realized that that 5th unit is not worth purchasing. He's got a lot already at the back. Yeah, 4 units of this good has been consumed already, or bought already if it's a durable good. So why does he need the 5th unit? And it's worth less than what he pays in market. So his consumer surplus are 25, 20, 16, 20, 12. So that's total utility. Okay. I think we'll define the consumer surplus in a minute. But is this clear now, that we stop at a point where the additional units that we consume is equal to the price we pay? I mean, the satisfaction from additional units is equal to the price we pay. Now, there's an example here to demonstrate this idea of consumer surplus. Let's assume you have a car. You do not pay anything for this car other than buying the petrol for driving it, to drive it. All the insurance premiums are paid by your parents, partners, whoever sponsors you, is a present from them to you, so you just have to drive it. Now assume that current petrol price is £1.20 units. So look at the graph here. The vertical axis measures the marginal utility and the price of petrol, and quantities of petrol we consume per annum. So this is annual quantities in liters of petrol is on the horizontal axis. And then the price at the moment in the market is 120, and we prepared for a start. We prepared to pay 150. So the first few units of petrol, we are happy to pay you are happy to pay 150 per liter in the first few. As a result, the consumer surplus, that's what you are willing to pay for that unit minus the price, market price, is 30p. Isn't it? Look at the third bullet point. It is clear, guys. You know, we talked about this earlier. The first few units are so valuable to us. We are happy to pay, we're willing to pay a higher amount of money to acquire that unit. Even the market price could be lower. So the difference between what we value that at the unit and then the price is our consumer surplus. So for the first few mileages, we are happy to pay. I mean, these are vital, journeys for which we are happy to pay. We're willing to pay higher than the market price. Now, when you have you have already purchased around 200 liters per annum. You have traveled a lot, and that's point A. You are willing to pay for the next additional units around 140 pounds, £1.40. So your consumer surplus is now the difference between that 140 and 120. So it's declining. Yeah? But as you travel more and more, and you become a more regular traveler, you towards 900 liters. You're talking to 900 liters. It's this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Towards 900 liters, you already consumed so much that the further purchase of petrol, for them you are willing to pay more than 120 market price, more than what the market price is. At 900 liters, your consumer surplus is 0. That's where we, maximize our utility. So marginal utility at that point is equal to price. So we are willing to pay market prices. That's where we maximize our utility. It is clear. So you can think of this. So if this is the price in the market, we usually are happy to pay, let's say, 900 units of something. You can think of this as crisps as well. The crisps are, let's say, $1 per pack. It is coming from a journey, yeah? And you landed you're coming from seeing your parents. You visit your parents in the US or somewhere else in Europe. You landed in there, you just really want fish and chips, let's say, rather than crisps. It's English meal, isn't it? You really want craving for fish and chips. In the market, fish and chips are $1. But for the first unit, you're willing to pay, you just have a chance to pay. You want to pay all of that for the first unit. You eat that. For the next unit, once you have consumed the first one, really, you aren't really paying $2.50 now. You consumed one already. You have some sort of satisfaction. So you're willing to pay $210 or $2. And so on and so forth. At this point, by the time you hit the market price, you have maximized your satisfaction. You just, you're full now, basically. You fully exhausted all the consumer surplus. You've taken advantage of all the consumer surplus. You were willing to pay $2.50, but you only have to pay $1. The difference is the consumer surplus. You maximize it. You just consumed all of it, whatever available. We're consuming exactly the unit that market price tells you. The quantities that market price, I should say. Yeah. It is clear. this might tell you something about demand curve as well. Your willingness to pay at different prices. Actually, the demand curve is actually a marginal utility curve. That's the theory behind the demand. So, willingness to pay comes from how much utility you are receiving from purchasing these extra units. So we now have derived the concept of demand. So this is actually the last curve here. So we'll come back to this in a minute. So demand is, given that we always want to maximize our consumer surplus at different prices, we are willing to pay to acquire different quantities at different prices. So it turns out marginal utility curve is actually a demand curve. So why we are willing to buy depends really on how much utility we get from this additional unit. What's happening, guys? What's funny?
I'm just tired. Sorry.
That's okay. Any question on this now? We just derived the concept of demand by looking at marginal utility from a heuristic perspective, more theoretical. These are introductory level. Next week we do indifference curve analysis. It's a bit interesting than this one. But I hope you understood. So there is an example here that we want to do now quickly. And then I'll do your attendance while you are looking at this. Let me freeze it. Just take a look at it and I'll read your names off the screen. Okay.